everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm the chef with Revive Wellness and My Viva Plan. And today I wanted to show you how to prepare green beans. It is summer here in Alberta, so green beans are in season. Some people are getting ready to start pulling them out of their gardens, and we can definitely buy them at the store fresh, which is great because usually we have to just settle for the frozen stuff. So it's great. I'm going to show you a few different ways to prepare them. I'll show you some ways to cook them up kind of as just a side dish to have with your meals, and then I'll show you a couple different ways to incorporate them into recipes and other dishes, so you can use them that way as well. Before we get started on the cooking part of it, I do want to just start by showing you how to prepare them. There's a little bit of prep work up front, but it doesn't take long at all. So the first thing you want to do is, of course, wash them really well, which I've already done here. Make sure that you've picked through them, and if there's any that look like they're not looking great, then just discard those ones. And once they're washed, then you need to trim off the end pieces. There's just a little end piece on both ends that need to be trimmed off. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can line them up and kind of make them all even here, and then you can use kitchen shears and just cut off the tops if you want, all in one go. Or you can just use a knife, and that's totally fine. You can use a chef's knife or a paring knife, whatever you have on hand, and just trim off those ends. And now you could leave them as is and just cook them. If you're using them as a side dish, that would be how you would do it. This is a really long one, so if you have really long ones, I would cut them for sure in half, maybe even in thirds. Really depends on what you're going to do with them. If you're just having them as a side dish, you can certainly keep them nice and long. If you're going to put them into something like a soup or a salad, you'd probably want to cut them into smaller pieces. So I'm going to finish trimming these up here, and then I will show you a few different ways to cook them. All right, guys, the first way I wanted to show you to prepare green beans is by steaming them. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. You can use a steamer pot set. So they look something like this, where the top pot has, like it's a perforated pot, and then you put boiling water in the bottom, or you put water in the bottom and bring it to a boil. You don't need much, just a couple inches. You put your green beans in the top, and then just cook them with the lid on until they're tender, which should be about 3 to 5 minutes. So that's a great way to do it, but I'm gonna do sort of a combination method today. I'm gonna do it in a saute pan, because the next method, I'll give you a spoiler alert, is going to be sauteing them. So I may as well use just one pan to do them, because usually when you saute green beans, you do want them to be partially cooked first. So you can easily steam them right in the pan. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's super, super easy. So you just want to take your green beans that you've trimmed and washed, put them right in the pan. You don't need any oil or anything. And then you want to add, depending on how many green beans you're cooking at a time, a little bit of water. You don't want to cover them, just a little bit. So probably a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of water, somewhere in and around there. If you wanted to season it at this stage, you can. Completely optional, of course. And then I'm just going to cover that, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. And then once it's boiling, I will just turn it down to kind of medium low, and allow that to steam. Don't lift the lid. It is tempting to kind of check on them, but that's how they get cooked, of course, is with that steam. So we're going to let that steam for about 3 to 4 minutes until they're kind of tender crisp. You don't want them overcooked, of course, and then if there's any excess liquid, then you can drain that off pretty easily. So I'll show you what that looks like when it's done in just a moment here. All right, guys, so I just finished steaming those beans, so I'll just show you kind of what they look like. Just a nice vibrant green, and they're nice and tender. So that's exactly what you're looking for. So now for the second method, which could also be part 2 of this. And by the way, after steaming it, you can serve these as a side dish now. I would recommend sprinkling a bit of lemon juice over them, or some lemon pepper, some melted butter. You can just, any seasonings that you want, or just plain salt and pepper is great too. So this is as simple as you can get, and it is nice and fresh, and especially when you're using fresh green beans out of the garden or from the store, you don't really need to do any fancy preparation methods to make it taste great, because the vegetables just speak for themselves. So that's what's great about it. So the next one here, I'm using the same pan, and if there's any excess water from when you steamed these beans, you can drain that off or wipe it out with a paper towel. And I've just added a little bit of butter here, and I'm just going to let that melt a little bit And then I'm going to saute those cooked green beans. And so this won't take long at all because they're already cooked. So you don't have to worry about getting them tender through this method. They're already tender. It's just kind of to toss them in that butter and maybe cook them just a little bit longer. So you can add that right in. And you can do, and here I'm just going to do salt and pepper because like I said, fresh green beans are so nice and sweet and they have a great flavor all on their own. You can definitely get creative with this if you want. You can use any combination of spices or herbs that you want to do. They're pretty, they go pretty well with a lot of different flavors. But like I said, I'm just going to keep it simple today. So you just want to sort of toss that around. I have the heat over medium-high heat, so the butter gets nice and melted, and you kind of want just a tiny bit of caramelization to start happening. So I'm just going to saute that here, and I want to say this will only take about 2 to 3 more minutes, and then it should be good to go. So I'll just finish that up here, and then I'll show you what that looks like when it's done as well. All right, so I just finished sauteing those. It's going to be kind of hard to see in the video, but I'll hold this up. Really what started happening here is a little bit of blistering on all of them and some kind of caramelization, a bit of browning, which is really, really lovely. It brings out a lot of great flavors in the beans. They're nice and kind of glazed by that butter. You can use olive oil if you want, and you can play around with the flavors. You can add minced garlic if you want. That always goes really well. You could do some Asian flavors with soy sauce or hoisin or something. You could do cherry tomatoes or sun-dried tomatoes, so lots of different options to go with green beans. But I'm just going to keep this as is because I just love the taste of fresh green beans since we don't get them too often. So those were 2 kind of methods for cooking green beans that I find very, very simple.